Hello, welcome to Sunday's Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Well, I'm delighted to be joined by you, Daniel, particularly a fresh face, you looking so well, which I can't claim myself, given that I've been travelling and working all day, and I'm just about fell asleep on the couch before we started the show. I mean it, Dan. Glad to see you back, looking like a new you.
Well, the other man joining us, of course, is the one and only Michael Gannon, who, Mick, owe you a massive thank you for stepping into the beach on Thursday. For anyone who doesn't know, I felt a wee bit unwell, a little bit below the weather. It was literally at like 2 minutes to 6. I was like, guys,
yeah, it was.
I'm going to be sick here. So,
yeah, I mean, of all the things, Dan, I must say your timing was absolutely atrocious.
It was absolutely brilliant. But no, Mick, what a legend. Thank you.
It wasn't just your stomach that lurched at that time at a minute to 6 on Thursday night. But the worrying thing is that despite you doing well all weekend, you still look healthier than myself and Keith. Keith's got an excuse. He was travelling since about 4 o'clock this morning. I've got no excuse. Look like this.
I've got one of the ring lights on. That's it. That's the secret. And I should say as well, actually, our producer Daryl definitely on Thursday as well. Top mark. So massively appreciated. But stomachs were turning last night as well, guys. That's the kind of plugs that are kind of segues I can make when I'm fully fit. Keith, you were in Athens.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this game. I mean, absolutely crazy game.
Well, do you know, I've written a column which I wrote on the plane on the way back, the early flight this morning. So I probably advise people not to bother reading it. It was probably gibberish. But I'm making the point, this is becoming difficult now. And I'm as excited as we all are, because all we wanted was to get to Tuesday. All we wanted ahead of these games was to have this, shot at glory at home, 90 minutes. It's effectively a one-legged 90-minute playoff at home against a very competent, very decent Denmark side, but they're not world beaters. In fact, they weren't even Belarus beaters at the weekend, thankfully, which means that we've got this opportunity. But where I'm getting concerned, and I've said for some time about this Scotland team that I trust it. We've got a team we can trust. We've got big players that like the big moments, the big games. And worryingly, when it's come down to getting into the final stretch on this campaign, some of the stuff that's been thrown up is so erratic that Steve Clarke doesn't know if we can trust him anymore. And I don't even mean on a game-to-game basis. I mean by a half-by-half basis. You're getting two versions of Scotland, and the first version from the other night isn't one that you want to see on Tuesday. Because if we turn up like that and open the game in such a pedestrian, plodding manner, and one of the things that I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at this, the Greeks are faster into every challenge. They're picking up every second ball. The desire levels, the commitment, the urgency. You would think they were the team that had a chance of qualifying for World Cup. We were just plodding about, and that it was scarily for me similar to what we'd seen in the previous two games last month, and we just can't have another one of them against Denmark. Otherwise, we'll blow it. Now we've been handed this unbelievable opportunity. Because of Belarus scoring 2 goals in 4 minutes, I think it was, all about the same time as Scotland were scoring 2 goals in Athens, and all of a sudden the whole thing turned. But I look at the performance that Scotland turned in from maybe about the 30-minute mark of the first half, and I think you could have probably taken about 6 or 7 goals off Greece. Keeper was inspired. Some of our finishing left a bit to be desired. We've hit the woodwork with McTominay. We could have probably scored about 6 or 7 goals in that period. Now, what I'm saying to you is, this sort of schizophrenic Scotland side, see if that version starts against Denmark with the crowd behind them and the energy inside the stadium, I think we could blow them away. I think we could do enough damage to them in the first half to actually have a relaxing second period where you're celebrating the fact that Scotland are going to the World Cup. But if we start the way we did in Athens, we're going to have problems. And look, I think we've all been around this particular block enough times to know by now it's very unlikely to be a stress-free event on Tuesday. We'll be sitting there at half time, 3-0 up, thinking, "Yep, that's it. Get the passport dug out for next summer." That ain't going to happen. But I want to see a proper Scotland performance, because we're getting Scotland in fits and starts at the minute right now, and that has to be a worry for Steve Clarke. And he looked angry to me when he came into the press room yesterday. I think there was a whole bunch of emotions going through him. There was a bit of relief. I think he was really pleased at the fact that his players are getting this chance. But I think there's a bit of anger in there about the way they opened up again. And you just wonder, is he looking at these guys going, because he mentioned before the game that he felt they might have been spooked by the size of the opportunity in the previous two games. And that's what it looked like to me last night for the first 30 minutes. And then when they did finally get their finger out, they lose another 2 goals, 3-0, and you think, well, that's us then, playoffs it is. So it was, of all the nights that I've done, of all the games that I've done with Scotland, that was as extraordinary an evening as I can remember in all my time, because of the chain of events and everything that was going on, and the fact that not a single Scottish person went into that game last night thinking, well, Belarus might get something.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're getting tons of comments in already. If you're watching at home, let us know what you thought of Scotland's performance and result last night. But before I get stuck into some of them, Mick, how did you see the game? I mean, I can't really argue anything you said there.
You know, it's funny, right? I mean, listen, see, as journalists, right, it's a privileged position, and we're lucky to get to cover these events around the world and all that stuff. And I was off last night, so I'm watching the game as a fan, right? But unfortunately, the one thing, and listen, don't expect any violins, but the one thing as a journalist, you watch the game through a slightly different prism, and all I kept thinking was, oh, those boys are having a nightmare out there. When it goes to 3-0, I'm thinking, right, that's now going to be a post-mortem, a World Cup disaster, another fetch Henry McLeish out from under the cupboard to find out why it's all going wrong. Then all of a sudden, Belarus starts doing things and we start scoring goals. And I just kept thinking, oh man, this is a nightmare. So you try to watch it and your nerves are going because you're a fan, but also because you think, I know what it's like to be in that kind of tumble dryer moment, try to get the paper away. The next morning, he feels it's like silent witness opening the paper. Not you boys, not want to blow smoke. I thought you boys did a tremendous job under very trying circumstances.
Thank you, Michael. No, I mean, that is the thing, and as you said, it's not about violence because we are lucky, but what the guys watching, probably most of them won't understand, is that when these matches are going on at that time of night, and bear in mind it's 9:45 kick-off, yeah. which was interesting. It actually meant that the after-match press conferences were on Sunday. So we started the game on the Saturday, and you're still doing the quotes and stuff on the Sunday. But what you don't get is when you're writing a live match report like that, as you well know, Mick, you're sending, say it's 1,000 words, you're sending 500 of them at half time. Then you're sending another 250 halfway through the second half. And then at the end, you do what we call a top and tail, which is like an intro. And the trick, and a bit at the bottom, and the trick is to make it all look as if it's one written piece. That was quite an ass last night when all manner of stuff was going on. But yeah, and then you need to have it all sent on the final whistle, as you know, as well, Mick. So, yeah,
listen, and some of our colleagues, I mean, obviously not yourself in Scotland, not me ever, but some of the boys are battling tremendous hangovers at that point as well. But it was a torturous watch. I mean, it really was. I mean, it was almost laughable how mad it got last night. And it seems to have been the campaign. It's been, I mean, listen. Do you know what? Listen, I don't like torture analogies. You know what? Well, I do actually. It's like watching a drunk playing pool and pot and everything, but not unable to walk. I mean, it's like they're staggering about, holding onto the walls, and yet pot and everything. I mean, it's incredible to see. I mean, it's like, but the only worry is, and as Keith touched on slightly more eloquently, is that at some point this guy's going to fall flat on his face. And I hope it's not going to be. I hope this kind of whatever magic we've got and luck that we're carrying, hope it continues into Tuesday night. I don't know if we should learn lessons, especially the last 2 or 3 games in this campaign, which has been, I mean, seat of the pants stuff. Do we try and learn from that and fix that, or do we try and Men in Black pen, forget about it, and just channel everything into this 90-minute do or die game? I mean, we'd all taken this scenario, beat Denmark at home in the last game, get the World Cup. We'd have snapped the hand off for this situation. Snapped the hand. How we got here, I'm not entirely sure. I don't particularly care, but we're here now. Scotland need to do what they've done before. And I mean, the last couple of games has not been like a Steve Clarke Scotland team. We're wide open. I mean, that game last night could have been 7 each. We could have beat 10-4. We could have been 6-0 at one point. We could have won 4-2 at one point. It was eyes bleeding stuff. I mean, all over the place. Defensively, we're going to need to sort that out because we cannot defend like that against Denmark and get away with it again, surely, unless there is some sort of cosmic force at play here to end our World Cup wait, which might be the case, by the way.
There's some sort of juju going on or something here. This is ridiculous. In what parallel universe can anybody rely on Belarus going to Copenhagen to keep you in the World Cup, to keep you in this? So the stars are aligning. It's all there for Scotland, but the problem is all these other factors have fallen beautifully into place. It's now up to the guys. And last night, it was up to them. And for half an hour, they went missing. Now, let's look for positives. One, Ben Doak. One shining kind of spark in that first half was Ben Doak, because the only person that looked as if he was going to take a run at them, going to cause problems. Every time he got in the ball, he looked like he was going to cause them issues. The negatives about that is John McGinn, Scott McTominay, not for the first time in these recent games, nowhere to be seen, not contributing. I thought that defensively, shambolic. Big John Souttar was the poster boy for a suicide squad at the back. Grant Hanley was then absolutely torn apart for the second goal by the big sub. But again, focus on the positives. About 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the turnaround, the interval, all of a sudden Scott McTominay woke up and started looking like the guy that we know. All of a sudden John McGinn came out to play.
He was great in the second half, I thought, Keith, McGinn. McGinn, I thought was great in the second half. Just never gave up.
But you saw them actually spark into life.
Aye.
Now, that's what I'm talking about, positives. If they've sparked to life and that is the way that they intend to carry on when the ball starts rolling on Tuesday night, we've got a wonderful chance. But if they go back into their shells or back to sleep and they don't wake up again until we're back in another crisis spot, then that's no use. We need that version, the best version of them. And you know that I'm going to say it, and I don't know what the chances are because Scotland didn't give us an update over the camp over there. We could really do with Billy Gilmore being fit in time to take his place in the middle of that pitch as well. So I don't know. So much to talk about, so much to think about. I mean, Che Adams, I really like so much of what he does, but you know, we can't miss those sort of guilty chances if we want to get to a World Cup, and then if we want to do anything when we do get there. So a lot of issues to be resolved here.
Well, so many of the comments that are coming in, and again, if you're watching, get involved in the conversation. They're on the things that you've just mentioned, guys, mainly the defence and Che Adams up front. Let me run through a few of these for you just now. Ali says Hanley and Gordon should retire now. Embarrassing. This one,
that's a bit harsh on Gordon.
That's a bit harsh on Gordon. Aye.
Yeah.
At one point, if it wasn't for Craig Gordon, we were 5-0 down last night.
Yeah,
he was great in the first half. Aye. John says Adams our worst striker, but obviously Clark rates him. John wants to know what our views on Che Adams are. This one here, this is quite a long one, but it's from Facebook. Charles says, I'm concerned that Denmark having a shocker. The ball bouncing off Gannon Doak's shin is going to paper over the start reality. Their forward line was terrible. I'm glad to see that Doak get his first international goal. Let's be honest, he's no end product. No, not right now, at least. It was maybe one of the reasons Che Adams appeared invisible. Clark can't afford to go on with his naivety against the Danes. Scotland might have scored 5 or 6 on Saturday night with James Forrest or an inverted Greg Taylor on the park. This one from Johnny says, John Souttar is having an absolutely awful season. Dreadful. He can't play against Denmark. And just finally, guys, if I can find them, Scott says the defence needs sorted big time, and Paolo says the truth is at the start of the campaign, bite your hand off this opportunity. The fans need to go nuts, and so do the players. They need to have the night of their lives.
Listen, I think that's it. Let's stop kicking lumps out of one another here. We are where we are. we've got this opportunity. These players, as much as, you know, people will mump and moan, and everybody's got their favourites, and everybody thinks this one should be playing and that one shouldn't. The bottom line is we've got into this position, and it's a dream scenario. And what we've got to try and do, and what I hope happens, and what Steve Clarke is already starting to send out the messaging, get behind this, you know, because this opportunity might not come around again for a long time. We could be sitting in another 30 years. Like, remember that time we nearly got there? So let's make the most of it. And I think Steve Clarke's sending out the rallying cry to the supporters who'll be at Hampden. Turn up the noise from before a ball is kicked. Be there. Hang in there. There will be difficult moments. Hang in with the team. Back the team. I think that's vital, because the home advantage, I think, on this one is massive. And it's up against, and this again, if you want to cling to positives, it's up against the Denmark side that are all tearing their hair out. And there's accusations flying about, you know, people letting people, there's all sorts of recriminations. They think they've blown it. And what they need to do is come into the most hostile version of Hampden imaginable. And Scotland need to come out the traps at them, and the place could just take off. It could be absolutely electric.
Well, look, we can see the table now that we're left with going into the final game. And look, I know we've obviously got tomorrow night's show ahead of a late Hotline live on Tuesday night. But I know this is such a big question to throw at you, but how do you feel it's going to go? Are we going to do it?
You'll need to come back to me. I'll come back. Honestly, this is what I'm saying. This is why it's impossible. How are we supposed to know if Steve Clarke doesn't know what version Scotland is getting? It's impossible.
It's a fair point.
This is what I'm saying. It's the drunk guy playing pool.
Yeah.
As long as he stays this level of drunk, don't give him a half. Don't give him another pint. Just keep it this level. Keep potting the balls. Just keep going. You can lie down afterwards. Just keep hanging on. I think there's something in the air. I mean, I wish it wasn't Denmark, and this Denmark, because I don't think they're very good. I think they're pretty average in terms of European top seed terms. I think they're quite flaky. I think their bottles crashing. They've got a sickness bug running through the squad. I don't like all that stuff, because again, I'd rather it has been a tougher a Portugal or something
really?
like that. I honestly,
I kind of see where you're coming from, Mick. I know what you mean.
Because I think what I think is you have two teams who are both going to be riddled with nerves on the night, because obviously, I mean, Denmark, I mean, completely wet the bed last night. They had 1 foot in the World Cup and blew it, so they're going to be really nervous and under pressure as well. I think we are going to be the same, because it's an opportunity. I think Scotland will be nervous the last couple of games. I think it's going to be a real nerve shredder for both of them. It could be mistakes made all over the place. It could be anything on Tuesday night. It could be anything. But I just think the stars are aligning. I don't know, there's something in the air that suggests that we're going to get there, but we're not going to get there. It's not going to be straightforward. That scenario you're talking, Keith, about being sitting in a party in the second half, good luck with that one. That's not going to be happening, that's for sure.
You think I don't know that? I'm just trying to conjure a nice image. Matt, see, after the day I've had, I want to have a nice night's sleep tonight, a nice calm night's sleep. So if I'm wanting to indulge in this fantasy world where Scotland are 3-0 up and we're all celebrating, then let me do that. At least give me tonight.
I've got the visions that the Will Ferrell with a big giant glass of wine shaking like that.
Well, in the comments, one last visit to the comments where we talk about Scotland. Scott points out the good thing is we need to win. Denmark will be thinking if they play for a draw or not. Colin says no point being negative now. Just everyone get right behind the team on Tuesday night. Paulo says he'd put Gilmore for Ferguson, Shankland in for Adams. And Scott simply says Hampden will be rocking on Tuesday. David says we have quality in the Scotland team. Playing at home gives a better opportunity. Hopefully we can rise to the occasion. And I mean, there's a few. I was going to read out a couple. Then when you start reading a comment, you think, bloody hell, I can't read that. So I'll stop. But one thing is for certain, it's going to be such an amazing night on Tuesday. Well, a huge night on Tuesday night. Hopefully, an amazing night. I'm like you, Mike. I think there's just something about this that makes me think we're going to get there. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
But who knows?
I'm looking forward to it and dreading it at the same time. So it's
Mike, what you doing? What are you doing with the centre forwards if it was you?
Do you know what? I think Shea Adams, I think the problem is he brings a lot in terms of his movement, defenders. I just wish he had a bit more composure in front of goal. That's the only thing, and you can't. And unfortunately, it's not really something that you're going to teach in 3 days or 2 days. You just got to hope that it comes off. I think he works his socks off. He's got plenty about him. I wish he had a wee bit more of a cutting edge. Likewise, Gannon Doak as well, really effective. But the wee final ball could be tightened up. Unlike, I think he will improve that. I think that will come. He's only 19, 20. I think it will come. Adams, I think we need to take it off with the smooth. And listen, a lot of our strikers have got that kind of in them as well. I just hope he's used up all his kind of misses.
Well, I'm asking the question because on the journey back today, if I heard members of the Tartan Army talking about it once or twice, I heard it must have been a dozen times, that Shankland would have taken them chances last night. And do you know what? I wasn't getting involved in the conversation, but I was thinking through it. It's hard to disagree.
Yeah.
But does Shankland give you all the other stuff that Shea Adams does in terms of the work rate, the movement, the mobility, the physical aspects of his game? I'm not. How much does Scotland lose as a team by taking that out? I don't know. It's a real, for me. I'm glad that Steve Clarke that's making the decision.
I was going to ask there, just off both of you. Say, I mean, you can see John there in the comments saying Shankland should start. If it isn't Shea Adams, is it automatically Shankland or is it Lyndon Dykes perhaps?
I think Lyndon Dykes would probably be next in line.
That's what I would think.
That probably piss people off even more. I think if it's not Shea Adams, it'll be Lyndon Dykes. But who knows?
I would agree with that. I
also think, Mick, that because Steve Clarke has talked about this previously when it was playoffs, and he said he made a mistake of not freshening up the team enough. Now, it's difficult for him to have said that and say that's a regret for him to then do it over again.
Yeah.
So
do you not think?
Although I think it'll be
off this one. I think in a normal double header, I totally agree. But in this one, I think all bets surely are off. I think you're not going to be resting anyone or rotating. It's got to be.
But he's previously said that that's something he's learned.
That
in such a short turnaround, you need to freshen it up. And it was actually from the games against the Greeks, wasn't it, that he said that?
Yeah.
In the other Nations League campaign. So if you've said that, if you've realised it, if you've said it publicly, I don't think you can stand accused of making the same mistakes again. So I think there'll need to be, I would say, minimum 3 to 4 changes to the starting lineup.
But to be honest with you, I mean that's about the maximum there is. I mean you're not dropping Hickey or Robertson, McGinn, McTominay. They're all absolute nailed on. I mean, Christie, I'm not sure about Christie, that deeper role. I mean, I think he's really effective for that pitch. I think obviously Gilmore hopefully banging on the door. So it might only be 2 or 3 real areas in that team that will be changed. Do you look at centre halves? I mean,
I think he'll change his centre halves.
You think
McKenna? What you thought?
I think McKenna's certain to start.
Yeah, I think he's had a good season.
Ahead of who, Keith?
Probably Hanley.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think Hanley's a good season, and he's back again, but he's not any younger. I think John Souttar really struggled. So I think John Souttar is not having a great campaign so far.
But he has had some big matches for Scotland this season.
He has.
Absolutely colossus.
Yeah.
And I think there's a better balance about Souttar on the right and McKenna.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think they did have a poor night last night. Yeah, and that's been kind there. So yeah, these are the 2 or 3 kind of issues, isn't it? Really, that he can weigh up. I'm almost at the point now it doesn't matter. The guy whoever gets picked has to get out and just get this done by hook or by crook, by miracle or by myth, whatever how you do it. Just go out and do it. that's the stage I'm at now.
Aye, completely agree. I mean, away from Scotland, guys, there's been a wee bit of domestic news. Should we touch on that? Towards the end of the show. There's never a quiet moment in Scottish football, is there? But Mick, the news came out on Friday that Wilfried Nancy is, we think, pretty close to becoming Celtic's next permanent manager.
Yeah, that's the word I'm hearing. That the very close is the phrase I'm getting told. Nancy was identified quite early on in the process, which kind of explain the kind of quietness in terms of candidates getting thrown at the job. Quite early on, contact was made, and I think we said it on our website and paper on Friday that the negotiations were at an advanced stage. I know that he had conversations with Celtic officials on Friday night. Desmond Michael Nicholson was involved. Those conversations are still ongoing. They've been happening all weekend. I'm told that it's very close. Listen, the caveat is things can happen. We've seen it before. Some people can get spooked. The contract might not be quite right. There might be issues in terms of, we still need to work out what's happening in terms of backroom team. He's got a very strong backroom team at Columbus Crew that he's been with. Kwame Ampadu, he's with it at Montreal. He's third wheel on is Johan Dammit. He was also at Montreal. He went away to LA Galaxy, and a few things come back. They're quite a tight-knit group. Do they all come as part of a package? We know that Celtic have got guys on the ground that have been there. Obviously, John Kennedy's left, so they need to work all that kind of stuff out. So I don't think that it's quite nailed down over the line yet, but I think it's well underway. He's the guy they want. He's keen. He's keen on the job. I'm led to believe that he's sold on it. He's doing his due diligence as well about it, from what I can gather, asking about and getting a feel for the place. That might have him running for the hills, given what's happened this season. So there's also that caveat. But all going well. These things do take time. Sometimes a slow process. I say slow in the kind of immediate terms, but in the grand scheme of things, it can be done. I think the plan is to get this done by the AGM on Friday. And I think it's looking pretty likely. I'm saying 90% likely, probably. I think to happen at this point in time. Having not been part of these phone calls, obviously, I don't get a chance to hear again on the conversations. But I think it's looking pretty likely at this stage.
I was going to bring that up, Keith. The EGM, it's a huge day for Celtic and their fans.
It is, and I think there's some big moves that can be made ahead of that to appease the sort of militant part of the support, and I fully expect Celtic to be trying to shift the pieces around in order to do that, placate some people. Now, a couple of things to take out of what Mick's just said there. When Dermot Desmond is involved, it's Dermot and it's the other guy, and nobody else gets into the room. For Dermot Desmond to then pass the discussions over and allow Michael Nicholson to come into the room, that basically tells you something. That tells you something that Dermot Desmond has decided, yep, I'll have him, he'll do it for me. Now, Michael, sort out the contract, do the paperwork. Because that's effectively how it works at Celtic. So that tells you all you need to know about where Celtic are with this. This is the guy they want, and it's now just, it's left to the paper shufflers to get it sorted out. Now, woe betide the guy that turns around to Dermot Desmond and says, well, actually, Dermot. So I take it from that, there's a very high chance of Wilfried Nancy being in Glasgow very early this week to take charge of the team for St Mirren at the weekend.
Yeah, St Mirren Saturday night.
Yeah, so I think that's what Celtic will be aiming for. I think that helps in terms of the EGM. And I also wonder then if decisions have been taken, if they've got their new manager, is there something, a rabbit out the hat that can be pulled with Martin O'Neill, where people are demanding change at board level? If Martin O'Neill was to take on some sort of role up the stairs as part of the board, does that placate people? I think it would. I think right now there's an absolute love-in for Martin O'Neill amongst the Celtic fans, and understandably so. So if you were clever about things, if you managed to move people around a little bit, you said that Martin was part of the board, then I think right away there'll be real friction at anybody singing sack the board if Martin O'Neill is part of that board. And that might not be strategically the worst thing for Celtic. And I wonder if there might be conversations to that end that have to take place this week. Because when they announced that Martin O'Neill's stepping down, they've got a new manager, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was as a secondary part of that announcement. And here's what Martin's going to do now, which is basically put a big sort of bomb bunker around the rest of the boardroom for the time being. There might be other shifts, there might be other intended strategies in terms of announcements about personnel on the board, all designed to reunify the club, bring the supporters back in, and give the new manager, the best possible start. Because, I think it's a really difficult position to be coming into a club where it's totally fractured, and the fans, they might be behind the team, but they're demonstrating, and it feels as if there's a lack of alignment. I think Celtic have to move heaven and earth over the course of the next few days to make sure that they give their new manager the optimum set of circumstances, and that might involve a bit of tweaking, a bit of tinkering, and a bit of clever manoeuvring.
We've obviously had a lot of response from Friday to the story. Colin, a couple of live tonight. Colin says Wilfried Nancy is just another Ronnie Dyler. Green Machine says Ange had a great CV in Asian football. This Nancy, no disrespect, is in the cheap shop, methinks. I get that none of us know a particularly great deal about MLS or probably Wilfried Nancy's background, but what do you think, Mick? The Celtic fans don't seem particularly sold as yet.
Well, I think some of them. I think you've got to be careful. I think a lot of people, especially online, will have knee jerks, and they'll look at the kind of CV, the MLS, and kind of write the guy off. A lot of fans will look at the kind of example, the Ange Postecoglou effect, when a guy came in and didn't know much about and did really well. I'm not saying that's going to be guaranteed, and I'm not saying they're the same personality or characters or not. Different CVs, different stages of their careers. What I would say is, going around the last kind of week or so, talking to people who worked with this guy, who played for him, and seen how he operates. There's something about this. There's something about this guy. This is a manager. I think last summer, St Etienne were looking at him. It seems a matter of time before he jumps to Europe somewhere. It might be Celtic are the ones ahead of the curve and getting this star on the rise. Listen, it might not be. It's a gamble. Listen, it's not mitigating risk. There is more risk attached to appointing a Wilfried Nancy, given the fact he hasn't operated in Europe as a manager. He's only been a manager for less than 5 years. He's been in the American market, which is a different kind of market. They don't have the same transfer kind of situations involved, and the market's different out there. There's wage caps and all that stuff. So it is a different environment. But as a coach, everyone I've spoken to is raving about him as a coach and as a person, as a motivator. People might think he's another one of these philosophy managers and he's got a kind of a dogma he sticks to. He's not. He's a very flexible. He's attack-minded. He likes to play attacking football, but he's very he can be pragmatic. He played in the CONCACAF Champions League, now the one that's the equivalent of the Champions League out there, the Mexican teams, and he played against teams from Mexico, and he changed his style, and because obviously the disparity with Mexico and MLS is huge. It's like Scotland or England in terms of the levels. So it was like going into the European Cup with a kind of with Motherwell against a kind of Arsenal at that kind of level, right? That's how big the gap is, and he did pretty well. I think he got to the quarterfinals and put up a good fight against these teams. So he is adaptable and pragmatic. From what I can gather, he's a good motivator, and he's got the kind of the tactical nous as well. So listen, there's no getting away from it. It's a bit of a leap. Going from Sleepy Hollow in Ohio, when you've got, okay, you get 20,000 watching the games and they make a lot of noise, but there's not the same scrutiny and pressure as you get in Glasgow.
It's a family day out, mate.
It is.
It's picnics in the car park.
It's I believe that we can win, and Glasgow, you better win, you're a dead man. So it's slightly different scenario in Glasgow, but I think he's not daft. He knows this. He knows that he's walking into it. It's an opportunity I think he's been waiting for, from what I can gather. So he's not going in completely blind. He is from Europe. He left when he was 28. Yeah. He landed and went to America for his holidays and ended up staying for 20 years and becoming an MLS coach. Eventually, you get an interesting career path. It's not the kind of usual beaten track. So I think it could be quite an excitement appointment for Celtic, or it could be a wild gamble. I don't know. What the concerns are is that Celtic I think if this appointment was made in pre-season, it would be less difficult, but he's arriving at a time when Celtic have got major issues in the squad in terms of recruitment in the summer. It's left holes in the squad. Also, a crippling injury list. Long-term guys out, big key players out for the long term. There's, a gap at the league to Hearts, who have started the house on fire, who I think are only going to get better as well. You get Rangers, who you've got to think there'll be an upturn in form and results under their new manager. So he's walking into a kind of very, very difficult situation. Having not had a pre-season under his belt to get to know the squad and build his own ideas across. The games are coming thick and fast. I don't think there's only 1 or 2 midweeks free now until the end of February. So it's going to be full cup final in there as well. It's going to be full throttle. There's jumping at the deep end, and they're jumping in the deep end with about 10-ton weight in your back. Do you know what I mean? It's right in there. So if he's got the chops to take that job, then fair play to him.
I think you could draw an interesting comparison there to Danny Rowe across the city.
Yeah.
Same set of circumstances. You're walking in fact, it's not even Danny Rowe was taking on an even more bleak set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Celtic are a trophy winning machine. They shouldn't require the drastic amount of work that Danny Rowe's taking on. And do you know what? As much as I admire both of these young coaches, young ambitious coaches, for having the balls to walk into that and in this environment and take it on, take the bull by the horns, there's also an element of it, which is the other bit, the flip side of that coin is, are they just guys that are happy to be here? Are they guys that will take this job under any set of circumstances? And the one thing where you wonder about Celtic is the way it all ended with Brendan Rodgers, the hellfire fury statements and all this. You just wonder if they've thought, well, used to use the words, Mick, the kind of high maintenance. Brendan Rodgers, have they decided to go really low maintenance here, and just a guy that won't make the same demands of them as frequently as Brendan Rodgers did? Because I'm not entirely sure that Celtic or Rangers, for that matter, are at their best when they've got, I'm not going to say a weaker character, but people who in charge of the team who aren't the sort of guys who throw challenges down at the people upstairs running the shop. I think both clubs, the health of both clubs and of both teams depend upon a bit of that.
I take that point. As a high maintenance, but it might be that these guys, and you could put the two in the same bracket, could also be seen highly motivated. This is big opportunities. These are jobs that can turbocharge a manager's career. It can also, torpedo, but it can also turbocharge them. And if I'm a manager that's got self-confidence and belief in my own abilities, I would be thinking, I'm going to go there, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be a hero to a huge fan base, and I'm probably going to have English Premier League banging my door in 2 or 3 years' time. That's the flip side. Rather than the kind of doomsday, I'm going into a dangerous situation. If I bomb out, I'm at the door sharpish. If I'm getting belief in myself, I'm thinking I'm going to go in there. I'm going to do Danish Postecoglou. A couple of years.
Yeah.
People singing my name and my phone ringing like mad. That's the way I would be approaching it. If I'm a manager, no, all managers are. They've all got. Delusions of grandeur, haven't they? That's what makes them managers. They've all got egos, and no manager thinks, well, I'm going in there, it's probably not going to work. They all think that they're going to be the top dog.
Mick, you're picking up the wrong end of the stick with that one. I'm not. It's not a criticism at all. You're absolutely right. Every young manager, if given this opportunity, if he's got anything about him, any sort of self-belief, of course they're going to jump all over it. Of course they're going to want it.
Yeah.
What my concern is, the people that are making the decisions above this, are they wanting an easier life now? At Rangers.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
At Rangers, does Kevin Thelwell want a guy that, isn't going to kick up a fuss about transfers or who comes, who goes? Is he just delighted to get this opportunity? And have Celtic decided after the Brendan experience, part 2, that they want something similar?
Yeah, I take that as well. But Yeah, that's why often. Sometimes you see managers that get replaced, they go the complete opposite from the one that's left.
Yeah.
Like it's often the way, isn't it? It makes me see. Listen, they still have to get this deal over the line. I say it's not done and dusted yet, and there's a few things need to be sorted. So, but I think it's really interesting. I mean, it's
fascinating.
It's a major step out unknown, really. A bit like you say, a bit like Danny Rowe, step out unknown. A smaller section to take from Rowe with obviously his English experience. But as it's a complete leap of faith if it goes through. But I think it's quite fascinating. I must admit.
We've got tons of comments in this, guys, and before we wrap up, let me just take another quick visit to the comment section before we finish the show. Robbie says Wilfried Nancy will not have the same structure behind him at Celtic as Columbus Crew, head of recruitment and data analysis, different tools, different effectiveness. Watch this space. Paul says, I find Nancy a rather underwhelming appointment if he's selected as manager. It could possibly bring more turmoil to the AGM, in my opinion. Paulio says MLS is a higher rated league than the SPL. Nancy is a manager on the rise. And John says that the problem is the new manager, is he going to be backed properly in the January transfer market? Celt88 says they went for a guy that won't be asking for players. He's used to working under a general manager. And it's actually Paul again. He finally says, Keith, Dan, Mick, Rangers and Celtic claim to be big clubs with great gravitas in Europe. Well, Roll and Nancy as managers say different if that's the level of appointments. So, lots of opinions on it. Whatever happens, it's definitely going to be a big week.
I can't argue with that. And I think that is another interesting sort of debate to be had. Because I still would regard the jobs at Celtic Park and at Ibrox as among the top level jobs in British football because of the size of the club. I'm not talking about the size of the league. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the size of the club, the sort of the global reach, the intensity, everything about it. And I know there'll be a lot of people out there that say, wouldn't touch it with a barge pole if I got offered Bournemouth or an aspiring championship club, Coventry City. There will be people that make that argument. For me, I think that there are certain football clubs that are genuine giants of the landscape. And even though Scottish football might not be anywhere near the sort of financial hinterland that the English have got with the Premier League, I think these are clubs that, as Mick says, go there, do the job right at one of these clubs, and you're turbocharged. You're absolutely turbocharged. Because if you can show that you can win in that environment consistently, bring the fans with you, really light a spark under the place. Yeah, I think as Ange Postecoglou shows, you will go on to bigger and better things. But yeah, so look, what I'm saying with that is, yes, have Rangers and Celtic now lowered their ambitions to say we'll just go and get the next young ambitious guy and hope that he turns in, because that's what they're trying to do in the transfer market with players.
Yeah, you
would think clubs the size of Celtic and Rangers would be trying, and Brendan Rodgers was obviously, he clashed in the elite level. This is a massive pivot away from that for Celtic, and it does pivot back towards Ronnie Dyler when that appointment came out of nowhere, and people were saying, "Oh yeah, this guy's got to be the next big thing." Do you know what? With managerial appointments, I'm a firm believer is you minimise the risk, and there's a big element of risk about Danny Rowe at Rangers and Wilfried Nancy at Celtic if that's who it is.
I think on that note, guys, that brings us to the end of Sunday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you very much for all your comments. We massively appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. and I'm sure our Scotland nerves will be, I don't even know at what level they'll be at, because I'm terrified of kick-off. But we'll be here at 6 anyway. We hope you can join us then.
5, I think.
Aye, that's it, exactly. Aye. Keith, Mick, it's always an absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
No worries.
Thanks, Dan.
See you later, folks. See you later, chaps.
And thanks for watching at home. Hope you can join us tomorrow.